Welcome to the latest edition of Doorstep History, which today comes from the Roundhouse, the stables on Sheepcote Street, just off Broad Street. So indeed, welcome then to the stables on Sheepcote Street, now known as the Roundhouse, and the creative producer for the Roundhouse is Chris. So Chris, just tell me a little bit about this place.
The Roundhouse is a former industrial wharf and depot for the Birmingham Corporation, which was built in 1874 by a Scottish architect called W.H. Ward. He also built the Great Western Arcade, which you might be familiar with in the city. The Roundhouse is essentially a stables and a place for people with very kind of utilitarian and down-to-earth crafts and jobs. People who looked after the horses, people who looked after horses and carts, farriers, wheelwrights. There's also a stonebreaker's yard at one point, so it represents quite a, like I say, a down-to-earth and kind of uniquely preserved piece of industrial architecture for the city.
Okay, we'll be finding a little bit more about plans for the future from you later, Chris, but for now let's just look back on the history of the site. Situated off Broad Street, the Roundhouse was built in 1874 by Birmingham Corporation and was used as the stables and stores. The horseshoe-shaped building has been neglected for years and has been steadily falling into disrepair. But now the investment from the Heritage Lottery Fund, together with the combined expertise of the National Trust and the Canal and River Trust, will see the building restored to its former glory. It's not the type of building that's normally associated with the National Trust.
This is quite an unusual project for the National Trust, quite an innovative one. One, because it's based in the middle of a big city, and we've become increasingly interested in heritage in city. The Birmingham Back-to-Backs, which opened over 11 years ago, has been a really special project which explores, I guess, an aspect of all our heritage and history, which the National Trust hasn't had a lot to do with in the past. We've been more stately homes, or we've been more countryside, but not a lot of city sites and buildings, and not a lot of telling the stories, I guess, of the people who are often left out of the history books, who actually are the people who made Birmingham what it is.
The restored building will serve as a focal point to enable people to explore the city's canals.
So the building will be an outdoor activity hub for the benefit of the people of Birmingham. So we're hoping that we will have both cycle hire and a cafe in the building, along with community space that people can use and enjoy on an ongoing basis. So we're hoping to attract 50,000 visitors a year to the building, and they will use it as a hub to explore the history and heritage of Birmingham.
If all goes to plan, the Roundhouse will be open in the autumn of 2018, and you'll be able to see what some of the money you spent on the lottery has been used for, and every indication is it will be money well spent. Norman Bartlam, Birmingham News. Now, the Roundhouse recently had a very special visitor. This is Joey, the famous Warhorse, who will be appearing at the Hippodrome in October. And he turned up at the stables to give it his blessing and to meet pupils from St George's School.
He's ticklish and he's kind of good. He feels like he don't feel like a real horse. He feels like metal, but yeah.
He's fake, but he's real. Like he acts real.
Like how he acts.
The sounds are real. Like
really different to a horse.
He's just realistic, and sometimes he can be scary, but he's just real. But he's fake, yeah.
We'll be having more about Warhorse and the work of the children from St George's School in a later edition of Doorstep History.
Oh yay! Oh yay! Oh yay! You're watching Doorstep History. God save the Queen!
These are our first memories. On my first time going to McDonald's, I was 3 and I went. I had some lovely food at McDonald's, and I went home and watched telly.
My happy memory was when I first went to my auntie's house and played with my little baby cousin.
First toy what I can remember is my Little Red Riding Hood puppet toy, and it came with Goldilocks and a big bad wolf. When we was in year one, there was burgers on Wednesday. My first memory is when I fell off the trampoline and then I hit my arm on the floor, and then there was a hole somewhere around here, and it was really sore.
Now we're off to Northfield Library, where a centenary history plaque has been unveiled.
So we're here today at Northfield Library to unveil a history plaque that has been organised by the Birmingham Civic Society to commemorate 100 years of votes for some women. So the Representation of the People Act was passed in February 1918, which gave some women the right to vote. We're here at Northfield Library because it was the site of a suffragette militant attack. So it was actually destroyed by arson in February 1914 by the militant suffragettes, so members of the Women's Social and Political Union who were active in Birmingham at that time and were using militant tactics to protest. So the plaque actually commemorates both the suffragettes and the suffragists. So the suffragists, that was the original name of suffrage campaigners who were active in this country from the sort of mid-19th century, and they tended to use constitutional and educational methods of protesting. The suffragettes was a phrase that was coined after the Women's Social and Political Union was formed in 1903 to refer to these women who were now using more militant tactics as opposed to the constitutional ones.
Now the plaque contains the name of Catherine Osler, a well-known Birmingham woman who did so much work, didn't she, for the suffragists, and indeed she was their president.
So Catherine Osler was the president of the Birmingham Women's Suffrage Society. Her parents had actually formed the society back in 1868 when she was 14 years old. So she actually was a subscriber to the society at that point. She then became the treasurer and the secretary and eventually the president. And she was the president until her death in 1924. She lived in Edgbaston. She was very active in social causes around the city and was a campaigner for women's votes through her whole life.
Hello, I'm Lucy Worsley and you're watching Doorstep History.
Later in the year, we'll be looking at some stories connected with local people that were involved in the First World War. If you've any pictures, stories or memorabilia about the events of 1914-1918, then please get in touch with us on Doorstep History. Welcome back to the Roundhouse. This stable's on Sheepcote Street. As we come towards the end of the programme, we can perhaps just look forward to the future, Chris. So briefly, what are the plans for the building?
We're in receipt of a Heritage Lottery Fund enterprise grant, which is thanks to national lottery players. The Roundhouse will be renovated, hopefully later on this year in around September, where the building will be turned into an enterprise hub, a heritage enterprise hub, which will enable people to visit the city and explore the kind of maybe the hidden areas of the city by foot, by boat or by bike. We'll also have a range of office and retail spaces as well as a cafe tenant. to sort of generate income and to kind of safeguard the future of the building.
Oh, thanks, Chris. So no doubt that's something for you to look forward to, and no doubt there'll be plenty in the local press over the next few months about the stable, so look out for that. And that's about it from this edition of Doorstep History. So from Chris and myself, goodbye and thanks for watching.